acceptable with everybody that's here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine with me.
We don't have Ann?
I'm
No?
here.
She's
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, are you? All right.
Can
Good,
you see
welcome.
me? Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Again, I apologize if this doesn't go well technically. But anyway, so Roberta, would you summarize our last meeting? I remember we were discussing that the parties in the health department were going to try to work out some a compromise or a way to go forward. Is that correct?
Yeah. So at the last meeting of October 2nd, we were supposed to move it back to the November meeting. It was continued to the November meeting. Just a moment. I'm getting something from YouTube from Charles. Give me just a second. Sorry. We're having a problem with the live stream. My apologies. There are just some technical difficulties right now. John, would you mind giving me a quick update while I get this fixed up for you?
I'm not open.
Yeah, he just called me.
So we're update on the
Okay, sorry. Live. Okay, so NCTV is remoting in, but we are recording, so for the minutes, we should be good to go. So go ahead and,
Roberta, could we just do an attendance so we make sure everyone's on since we're having these technical issues?
Yes, for attendance, I believe, well, in person, we have Carrie McKenna and Meredith Lepre for the board. Online, we have Malcolm McNabb and Ann Smith. I do not see Jim Cooper here. And then in the room for the applications, and for staff, it's myself, Roberto Santamaria, John Hedden, Chief Environmental Health Officer. Meg Ruiz here to comment, so we'll do a public comment after this. Don Bracken, Jim, Mike, 11 from Nantucket, and then I'm sorry, I do not know Richard here, and Richard Reddick is here as well. Online, we have Sandra Weinberger as attendees, Christopher Gould, Gail Greenwald, Heather Nardoni from the staff, and James Malone. And then in the panelists, I can't see the panelists right now because NCTV has control of my computer. But let's keep moving forward.
Okay, well, let's go back to Sanctity.
Yes. So we were supposed to come back to this last meeting, which got continued to today due to a posting issue that happened on an OML issue. And what we're doing is looking to see a determination of whether or not the Board of Health determination of whether or not staff's recommendation that the Sanctity Head caddy program is considered a recreational camp or not. Well, Mr. Reed is here as representing the applicant, and I believe there are some other people online as well. Mr. Jonathan Fitch, Bunny Wolfschlager, Dave Hinman, and Doug Meyerford are also here. And I believe Marketer are also here for the Sanctity camp. So we'll go from there.
All right, so does the staff have any other comments and then we'll go to listen to the representatives.
We would reiterate our stance when we spoke to a representative at the state DPH, and we explained what we see at the caddy for the caddy program. Their recommendation to us is that it is also a recreational camp. So at this point, we're just going to leave it there. And John, if you want to add anything from that, and then we'll just let the camp talk.
Yep, I think, and then we were towards the end of the last discussion, talking about how there's 18-year-olds at the camp, which if you're 18 or over, you wouldn't fall into the category of a camp. And they were mixed in with 14 or 15-year-olds or high schoolers or under 18 years old, intermingled and everything into the dorm rooms that they have. And there was talk about variances in regard to the head spacing, which is 6 feet, I believe, when they are double bunked, and square footage requirements based on the code. And I would just reiterate on that that fact of a variance for that is they need to show the same level of protection, which is in the code. So that's how a variance would be granted. So.
Can we hear from representatives of the camp
Yes,
or the program?
Attorney Arthur Reed here. I'll lead off. As we discussed at the October meeting, we have brought this matter before the board as a request that you determine that the caddy facility operated by the Sankaty Head Foundation at the Sankaty Head Golf Club, from which it is separate. It's land owned by the golf club, but the caddy program is operated by the foundation. And it is our position that that does not constitute a recreational camp for children. And therefore we would be exempt from the regulations, and we would ask that you so determine. My other colleagues on the call will explain to you from their experience and background a great deal of the history of the facility and how it operates. And I will only briefly state that what we have here is a situation where the young men, some of them under age 18 and some of them over age 18, have summer jobs working as caddies. They're not employed by the golf club. They're not employed by the foundation. They are provided housing by the foundation at the facility that's on land leased from the golf club, and they are available to act as caddies for golfers at the Sankaty Head Golf Club. The nature of the facility is that this is a residential facility, not, however, in connection with a recreational facility. It's not a recreational facility for the children, for the underaged members of the program, but rather they are housed in this operation, in this facility, and they, in addition to serving as caddies, directly under the supervision of the individual members of the club for whom they caddy, but also there is a program in which these caddies are provided with opportunities that will aid them in their future education and, may I say, life progress. There is a college counseling involved. There is a scholarship program for these kids, many of whom come from, in fact, most of whom come from underprivileged, from to one extent or another, backgrounds, and come to the camp, come to the facility in order to work and also to receive the benefits that the program provides for them in terms of increasing their educational opportunities, as well as letting them make some money for the summer in a nurturing environment. Under the direction of the camp director, the facility director, Dave Hinman, who is on the call here today. any recreation involved is incidental to the nature of the facility and the nature of the program. The you know, they have a basketball court, and they have the opportunity to go swimming. Uh, these are things that any teenaged or slightly older boys are going to want to do wherever they are, whether they're at home, whether they're off at school, whether they are working for the summer. They need, and it's good for them to be able to have some opportunities to play some sports. But that's not the focus of the facility at all. That's purely incidental to the nature of the facility, which is a recognized 501c3 educational organization and has been treated as such by various town boards. In fact, the facility has operated for nearly 100 years, and I think it's well known to most people in town. And the Board of Health has, over the years, inspected the facility, and as the facility has cooperated with the Board of Health. I know that, as will be told by some of my colleagues, there have been extensive interactions between the facility and the health department in connection with protections at the time of the recent COVID pandemic. And the only issue here is whether, because of being defined as a recreational camp for children, which we strenuously object to, that places certain obligations upon the facility that we feel are very difficult for us to comply with and really inapplicable to what we're doing. And basically, in the last year, after this issue was first raised, after many years of never having been any suggestion that we would fall within this recreational camp for children definition, the facility has been inspected in the past, and there's never been an issue. And this only came up really out of the blue and surprising us quite a bit last year. Again, we were able to comply with all of the requests that were placed upon us last year. And the only issue that we have going forward, I mean, obviously we want to maintain the facility as a good and safe and welcoming and protective place for the young men who are in the facility. But we have difficulty with complying literally with the spacing requirements in connection with the existing residential facility that's on the premises. The result of a literal compliance with those rules at the in the present facility as it now exists would render it impossible to house the number of caddies that are necessary, and that number is around 60, and we would need to cut that down by approximately 1/4 in order to comply with the requirements, and that is something that we frankly are not prepared to deal with right now. Time passes, and the amount of time that would be necessary in order to bring that into compliance would be considerable. And also, money does not grow on trees, and this is a private nonprofit organization and has limited ability to undertake the amount of construction that would be necessary in order to change that, all of which we think is unnecessary because we believe that, first of all, there's never been a problem. And secondly, we think that the standards that are being maintained are substantially in accordance with those that would otherwise be appropriate in connection with a facility of this type. So therefore, we feel that we should be determined by the Board of Health to be exempt on the basis that we do not constitute a recreational camp for children.
Okay,
There is the question that had been raised of whether calling ourselves a camp makes us a camp. And I know that's language to that effect in the regulations, but if that were the case, something calling itself a camp but not even having any children on the premises would be determined to be a camp. The way that's written, it doesn't make any sense. And in any event, we've stopped using the term. Occasionally, the word may slip through because it was called that for many years. But the fact is that we are no longer using the term, and the fact that it had been used in the past should not effectively be used against us.
okay, that's great, Arthur. I think we get it. Is someone else going to speak for the program?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, I think Jacques Wolfschlager is going to have a few words, and also my accord.
Yeah, you can remember we had this discussion last week, so we are familiar with the history and so forth of the camp. So you don't have to go too far. Just kind of update us and where your stance is.
Jacques, you're muted.
Yes, there's Jacques, sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We got you.
You got me. For 93 years, we've been sending these kids, bringing them to Nantucket, educating them, helping them out, and sending them on to college with scholarships. I mean, we want to continue doing that. We need the 60 caddies to do it, to service the club. And also, if we have to cut back, there are, 12, 14 kids that are not going to be eligible for scholarships to college. We'll never see college. Arthur has said everything. That's the way we feel. Duff, you have something?
Yep. Someone else? And
Yeah, this is
then
Duff Meyer.
we'll go back to the staff.
Well, I
And
know Curtis Barnes is also here to speak on behalf.
Is that appropriate? Thank you, Curtis Barnes. I spoke at the last time this came up, but since then I've been thinking a little bit about it some more. We bring a lot of college kids in for the summer. They serve as waiters and waitresses. That helps them with their college money. We provide housing for them. And in a way, many of these young men who come in also are earning their college money by being at Sankaty. We provide housing for them. So in a way, I'm looking at the college students who come and work in the restaurants at the beach club, and then at the young men who come and work at golf, and they're all there with summer jobs. That's part of the program, as well as the scholarship program that is so important. So I do hope we can continue to do this as we have for 90 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Is there anyone else who will add something else from the perspective of the program? Something we haven't heard?
Where do these kids come from?
Then I will ask for comments from the board, please.
Yeah, Carrie here. And I brought this up at the last meeting, is if if you're not a camp, or maybe you're an educational program, or also I said I'd be concerned about Department of Labor laws. If you're not a camp and the caddies aren't employed by the club and they're not employed by the foundation, I'm kind of not sure, what are you? And I'm not trying to be, nasty. It's just that, I worked in education and I worked in setting up job programs. And I'm having trouble wrapping my head a little bit around this because I'm not sure what you are if you're not a camp and you're not an employer because the students don't work for you. So can you give me a little more information about, from that perspective, please?
Well, I think the answer is that we are an educational nonprofit organization. We have we're a public charity, and as such, we are providing a program that enables these young men to obtain while earning money for college by caddying, providing them with the resources that they need in connection with applying to college. Many of these kids, as I mentioned, come from underprivileged backgrounds and would never have the opportunities to go forward to college and to hopefully success in life without being involved in a program like this. So therefore, that's the nature of the organization. It's a nonprofit, charitable, educational program, which in addition to all of that, provides scholarships for the caddies as they go on to college, and quite a lot of them return to work during the summers while they're in college as well.
Is the program either state ed certified or have some kind of certification from the education department that would help kind of steer our thinking towards that rather than camp?
All I can say as far as that's concerned, and others may have more information on that point, is that we're formed as an educational entity and have received 501c3 status based upon that.
Okay, but that's not education.
Dave Hinman, I think, has something to add.
Hi, yes, this is Dave Hidman. I'm going to be starting my 12th summer running the caddy program, and just wanted to talk a little bit about the educational programs that we do with the boys while they're with us. Caddying is, you learn so much through caddying, and that's a big part of what we do. Building relationships out on the golf course and working hard, but we also we read a book together in the summer. The boys participate in SAT and ACT tutoring. We have writing skills program. We do a study skills program with our younger kids. We have a speech writing and public speaking program. And as Arthur said, we also have a college counseling program where a college counselor works with our juniors and seniors. And, our mission is to have these kids be successful in college and beyond. And caddying is a way that we can teach a lot of skills, but so much of the educational items take place right down at the facility during the summer, and so important to who we are and who we've become.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
And,
Malcolm?
and, but
I think we're getting hung up on the word camp. My concern from the perspective, I think, of health, and several of you have used the word education. When you house a bunch of kids together who are under the age of 18, it seems to me that you have to conform to what the state rules and regulations say about how that housing should be done. Certainly those of us who have had our kids go to a boarding school know that there are certain rules and regulations that happen there. and you can't, I don't know what they are, honestly. I'm sure we could easily find out, but you can't pack a whole lot of people together in a small space. So I think what this turns on for me is the fact if everybody were over the age of 18, I would have no problem whatsoever. The fact is, and I don't know what the percentage is, 18 versus under 18, but the fact that if you were housing younger teens, I'm afraid maybe we have to think about abiding by those, whatever those regulations are.
Okay, Ann,
Um,
Meredith?
yeah, so I guess I'm confused of why this is continuing to be an issue because if the foundation or the golf club employed them, you're giving them room and board, I assume. Then this whole thing would go away. Am I understanding this? I filed the Mullen and I watched the meeting from October. And it seemed very clear at that meeting that if the kids were employed, this is a non-issue. You could house them however, I'm sure there's standards, but you could house them in the housing that you have. And I mean, I guess is there a reason that you guys can't employ them? It just seems like, yes, you're giving them all of these wonderful skills and tutoring, and I think that's great, but would it really be that expensive to employ them for the summer? And then all of this goes away and is a non-issue? That just seems like that seems like common sense to me. Like that will make this all go away. It won't be called a camp. They're employed by the foundation, they're employed by the golf club, however you want to do it, but they're employed. So then, because I assume that the money they're making is just the tips that they're making when they're caddying.
I'm not sure that that is the issue. Maybe Roberto can clarify that for us. I thought the issue was housing kids under a certain age and that certain standards had to be applied in that case.
So it's an issue of a gray area here. Because it's a summer program, like the way it's been described, we missed it, to be honest. We missed it to answer the questions and the comments that were made before. Every year we had done the inspections, every year we had looked into it. We just missed this definition in the recreational camp law. When we started doing when the state started auditing recreational camps, we started we got a better understanding of what the rules and regulations were. And we realized that the way this is being run falls under a recreational camp. Jake actually brought that up to our attention just this last year. So that's why we're here today. What the issue with the hiring kind of goes into is if they were on payroll, they are governed under a completely different standard altogether. It's the Department of Labor standards.
And would they all be able to have the 60 kids?
That would fall, yeah, it falls under the VLS housing rules, which bunk rooms are a thing in housing. It's same with farm camps, other sorts of labor programs as well. So it's not necessarily that it all goes away. It's the issue with the local board of health referring to you as a recreational camp goes away, because then you become governed by the Department of Labor standards. But yes, you can also have youth, as long as they're legally employed, they can be youth. Curtis has a comment on that too.
All right.
Wanted to suggest that maybe a term that could be applied is internship. Very typical in the academic world. So an internship would be one way of looking at this.
All right.
We have spent some time looking at the question of whether converting the status of the caddies to employees would be feasible, and for various reasons we've come to the conclusion that it isn't feasible, at least to create certain other problems that we would prefer to avoid and keep the structure as it is now. And just to make things clear, it's not just tips. They are pay the people who use them are required to make a payment to them. There can be additional tips on top of that, but they are paid those sums directly by the golfers who are using them.
Okay, anybody else have anything to say that has not been said before? And then we'll try to get some resolution on this.
Mr. Chairman, John Hedden, Chief Environmental Health Officer. I think we're kind of getting away from why these regulations were put in place and trying to categorize things and put names to them when if you look in the packet and the Q&A for camps, what is the purpose of the regulations? Establish minimal health, safety, sanitary housing standards to protect the well-being of children who are in the care of a recreational camp. Requiring camps to perform criminal background checks of each staff person and volunteer, requiring proof of camper and staff immunizations, requiring proof of appropriate training and certification and experience for staff conducting or supervising specialized or high activities, including swimming and watercraft activities, which we witnessed on some of the videos which were on the website. So, I said it at the last meeting, I'm still a little confused as why there isn't pursuit of getting a permit through the Board of Health when we're talking about children under the age of 18. And there's significant health risks involved with this scenario. Thank you.
Okay, again,
Could Dave Hinman address the issues that were just raised?
yes, go ahead, please.
Sure, we did all those certifications that we were asked last year. We followed through with everything that we needed to do. The one piece that we couldn't meet was the number of beds in our bunkhouses. But we did meet all the other criteria. We got the certification. We queried all our staff. We did the background check. So we are doing all of that. We just cannot meet the number of beds that recreational camps are asking.
Okay, thank you. Let's go back. What is the consensus of the board? What is the pleasure of the board? I get a sense of it. Does someone want to make a motion one way or the other? Declaring that this is a camp or this is not a camp, in our opinion, or give them an exemption for the beds?
It's Carrie here. Giving exemptions for the bed seems like it's defeating the purpose of regulations in the first place. I'm concerned that I'm not sure that all the other routes that maybe could have been done to check, could they become a state ed certified program and meet different standards, or Department of Labor stuff in terms of, well, if they're not employed by the foundation. There's a lot of really, when you talk about even internships, there's a lot of regulation that impacts from the DOL, federal and state, about the establishment of internships. The regulations are the regulations. Our job is to enforce regulation. And it kind of sucks sometimes when we kind of get the situation. And as Dave pointed out, it really is only one thing that we're struggling over, which is the beds. And I know we had asked this question at the last time this came up, was, is there a rate, between the 18-year-olds and the non-18-year-olds, is there a way to rearrange the different housing, so you can maximize, you potentially maximize the space and still meet regulations, because over 18, you don't have to worry about the regulations as they stand here. And I'm not sure that effort has been made.
Do we have a comment on that?
Dave?
Yep, sorry, I was unmuting. You know, we certainly could look at having under 18-year-olds living in one space. We still would, you know, we would have to turn some kids away. And, you know, part of the beauty of our program is how diverse this group of kids are that come and stay with us, and how they work and live together and build these relationships. And there's so much mentoring that goes on between our older and younger guys that it would be a real loss to our program not to have that mentoring going on in our huts.
All right, I guess my issue, actually, what's bothered me is my sense of the last meeting is that the two sides were going to get together and try to work something out. And I understand that hasn't really been done, because really all we've been doing for the last 39 minutes is rehashing the discussion that we had a week ago. So we didn't really need to do this at all today if the two parties had actually gotten together and worked something out. Am I correct here? Silence.
We'd be happy to
Yeah,
negotiate.
you may be. I'm not sure. Based upon the position that I know that Mr. Hedden has taken, I'm not sure that there's a way to work it out that involves our being able to maintain the number of caddies in the facility that we need and that we've always had and that we're planning on. And again, I have stated all along that I believe that we're exempt from the regulation, but our application also involves request for variance. And in the light of the fact that there has never been a problem, that we are complying with every aspect that we can comply with of the regulations, whether or not they're applicable, including everything except the number of caddies that can be housed in the camp, that we would ask you to consider issuing a variance to allow us to continue to operate in the way that we always have. And again, there's never been a problem. There's never been an issue. Certainly not in the period of time that the present group that's here with me today have been involved in it as a result of the issue of the proximity of the campers to each other. And we're complying with everything else. So I would ask that you, if you determine us to be subject to the camp regulations, that you grant us a variance from that requirement.
Okay, all right, so not to drag this out, since it does not look as if the parties in the health department are going to come to any kind of agreement, I think the board has essentially two choices. One, we can pose a motion stating that the camp is, or the program is a camp or not a camp. If it's the consensus of the group, then the other motion could be done at the same time or differently, that we give a variance on the number of beds. So I bring it back to the board for someone to raise one of those motions, and then we can move forward.
What about making a motion to continue till January, and they can reach out and work with John or Roberto to get this figured out, because I for one am not a huge fan of issuing variances on something like this, because there's lots of camps on this island in the summer, and if we're going to give you guys a variance, then somebody else might come, and now we are dealing with kids who are under 18 and their health, and we do have to protect that. And that, I mean, taking care of children is something that is very important to me. So, I mean, in an effort to allow them to work it out with the health department, I would offer a motion to
The variance.
continue.
To deny, maybe a
No,
motion to deny the variance.
Yeah, well, I was going to say to continue until January, and they can reach out and work with Roberto or John and figure out how they can get around all of this. I
mean,
feel like there should be a way.
yeah, Meredith, I would actually like to see that, although I heard that both parties sort of believe that can't happen. But I mean, to me, calling this, to me, these are employed people that have housing, and they also play basketball. So, and I
So
know
employ them.
we can, they're, I don't want to start the whole argument again. I'm having trouble myself personally calling this a camp, but I get the sense from the board would go the other way. And maybe there is an opportunity for the two parties to continue working this out.
Was there
that would be my preference. Roberto?
We can definitely get together. I think the biggest issue is, as it stands right now, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the housing part of it.
Yeah.
And I think to operate in the way they're operating now requires a variance to the housing portion.
And this board
Question about how many kids of the group of people who come, what is the percentage under the age of 18?
Dave,
I don't have that number on me right now, but it's probably around 60%.
60.
Yep.
60.
Yep.
Or under 18.
Yep.
Whoa.
So could you not move the housing around so that 60% has the housing that meets the camp requirement and the 40% live in the other housing? Is that?
Either way, I think what it comes down to is they're gonna have to eliminate beds.
How many beds?
That I don't know. How many beds would need to be eliminated to meet the standard of 36 inches in between?
12.
That's
12.
12?
Yes.
12 beds.
Is
Well,
it possible to add on and at some place or anything like that? That's too costly. That's impossible.
We would need to build a new building. Obviously there's a lot of cost that goes into that. We had been hoping to improve our staff housing. That was sort of the next project. Yeah, we would need to create a whole nother hut for housing.
And obviously that can't happen between now and the 2024 season.
no. You're lucky if it's the 26th season. All right. So let's move on here. So I'm not hearing that there's any chance of working this out. If that's the case, then we might as well take a vote. I would love to follow Meredith's opinion and see if we can give this another month. But I don't know, waste our time if it's going to be fruitless.
Arthur,
Arthur,
what do you say?
I don't have any problem with continuing it for a month. I think, we can certainly reach out again to Roberto and John and see if there's anything we can come to by way of a resolution. The thing though is that our hands are really tied in terms of what we can do if we're going to operate the facility at the present level of caddies, which is what's needed and which has been the case for many years at the 60 level. We just don't physically have the facilities and obviously won't. And what we would be applying for if we applied for a license would be for the 2024 season. Each year requires a separate application. We would not be able to, under any circumstances, comply with that and still have 60 caddies for the upcoming season.
Right. So
If there's no flexibility, and again, I suppose if we continue it for a month, rather than putting anybody on the spot, we can see whether there's anything that we can work out. But I will say that if for that period of time, there isn't any flexibility about any type of relief with regard to the number of, or rather the specific issue, which is the separation on the beds, then I don't see how we're going to come to a resolution that works.
Would it help in any way to give I hate to use this word because it's kind of toxic, but variance for the 24 season with the understanding that there will be a change in the future?
Obviously, in granting the variance, you strictly speaking are only granting it for the 2024 season. And if you did that, and with the understanding, I don't know how long it would take us to be able to obtain the funding, the permitting, and the construction that would be necessary in order to provide more. But that in any event, it would be understood that we would have to come back to you for the 2025 season to report the situation and either be in compliance or tell you what actions we would be taking and ask for a further variance potentially if necessary, but it would be up to you at that time as to whether to grant it.
But if we
Comments?
did that, you would know that you needed to be working toward a better solution.
Yes,
For the future.
We would be reporting to you, and we would do it early so that there's plenty of time, more time than there is this year for us to go back and forth on the point as to where we are on the whole issue. I can't say right now exactly what we're going to be able to do because we don't have the money at this stage of the game to do that. But the funding would have to be obtained, as well as the permitting. Additional arrangements may be made with the club, which is a separate entity, as noted. But the point is that if you did that, it would be for the 2024 season, and we would have to come back to you for further discussion for 2025.
Arthur, I feel we can get headed in that direction if we get a variance for 2 years, 2025,
24 and 25.
24 and 25. By that time, we should be able to accommodate the health department.
But it's gonna tell them how much it's gonna.
well, my sense is we're not. I mean, Ann's suggestion is interesting. I mean, obviously, delaying a decision to January, I don't think is going to help. There's nobody is smart enough or is going to bend enough between now and January. So let me go back to questions of the board about the potential of Ann's variance.
Jake.
Oh, nice to Jake also from the staff. As a comment on it. Jake, unmute yourself.
Jake Bisco, Health Inspector. I just wanted to remind everybody that if we do grant a variance, they have to show us they're providing the same degree of protection by granting that variance. Oh, lights just went off in here. Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
In other words, you're saying we do all of the things we did last year with the health department, filling out every application, doing everything correctly.
By granting the variance for the square footage, just showing that you're providing the same degree of protection, having less square footage.
Right,
Which is what we did last.
which is what we did last year.
And how'd you do that?
We filled out your forms, sent them in, and how many pages, Dave, were there?
200.
I'm saying the proof that it was the same degree of protection.
I don't understand.
I think we're talking about two different things here. But yeah, no, it's when we talk about the same degree of protection is, I think, Jacques, what you're referencing that is the COVID protections, correct?
COVID and everything else. All the immunizations the kids got, all the back checks we did, all the doctors, CPR we did, everything we did last year to continue doing that and just give us 2 years to
Figure out funding.
funding. I mean, it's $1.5 million to build something like that.
In today's dollars.
So if I can run the camp, excuse me, sorry, if I can run the program for 2 years, like we're doing, and solve the problem with the spacing after 2 years, I think that would work.
All right, I think everyone's expressed their opinion, and obviously we're going to have to make a decision one way today, because postponing this to January, we're just going to be sitting here again for another half hour talking about the same things. So going back to the board, we need a motion. Again, we're coming down to the concept, and I agree, granting variances is, this board is not known to grant variances.
Well,
We've been pretty strict about this.
I would
But
be open to making
it
a
would
motion to grant a 1-year
yeah.
variance.
That's your motion?
Mhm. And reevaluate in a year, but I would want to see in a year a plan for how this was going to be brought into compliance, but give them a year to figure out a way to work on this.
Do I hear a second? No seconds, Ann?
I'm not clear what this motion is. We're giving a variance till 2025, or we're saying that by 2025 it will be done? Or we're saying that by
We're saying-
2025
we're-
there will be a plan to rectify it?
Right, that would be a plan. We would have to see a plan, the way I think in Meredith said, a
Yes.
year's variance. You explain it, Meredith.
A 1-year variance, and then they have to have a plan for how this is going to move forward. I guess I don't feel like probably you're not going to build another building within a year, but you have to have a plan that you're going to be having this taken care of. So it might take 2 years, but at least you have this summer, and then you have a plan for the future of how you're going to make this work.
So they come
think
to
that's-
us in the fall of 24 with their plan? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying, Meredith?
Mhm.
Okay. Got it. I'll
We can
second
do
that.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Yeah, we
Okay,
can do that.
voting by roll call. Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
Jim isn't here, is he?
No, he's not here.
Ann Smith,
Yes.
Carrie McKenna,
No,
and the chairman says yes, aye. The motion carries 4-1.
3-1.
And I appreciate this was a tough one. It's, a balance of what we feel it's kind of it's like deciding between your heart and your head and your head and your heart. You want to do something in your heart, but you know legally there's issues in your head. And I think we will go forward and we'll see these individuals a year from now with their plans.
Thank you very
I
much.
want to thank, yes, all the members of the board for the consideration and their understanding of the situation that we have, and look forward to working to a final resolution of this that'll work out for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, just a couple of things going back to the agenda. And is there public comment on any issue not on the agenda? Anyone out there?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that really is.
Hi, I'm Meg Bruley. I'm a resident at Tom's Way. And I sent a letter today to the town manager, Libby Gibson, regarding PFAS contamination on Tom's Way. The DEP since October has done over 50 samples of water on our street and the surrounding neighborhoods. And every single house on our street is contaminated. We all are serviced by private wells. We have all been working together, the neighbors, with Wannacomet Water. And they have a plan in place to bring a water main to Tom's Way. The work will begin in January, and we're very grateful and appreciative of all the support that the water company has provided. The data that we got shows that the contamination, the concentrations of PFAS on Tom's Way is actually the highest right now in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and possibly all of New England. So it's a very I'm so nervous because it's a very imminent hazard for us. And we are asking for support from the town of Nantucket and from the Board of Health to fund the actual connection from the street to our houses because we are right now having to do that ourselves. So I brought a copy of the letter for Dr. McNabb, who was CC'd on this letter, along with Roberto Santamaria and Michael Maynard, the contamination coordinator. And that's really, I just wanted to make everyone aware of it, what's going on, and we appreciate all your support and help moving forward.
All right, so essentially you're responsible for the hookup.
We are responsible for
cost.
the hookup. So the letter that we sent to Libby is asking that she share this with the town, because what we've learned when you say the 4-letter word PFAS, all the phones, no one answers your calls, no one responds to your emails. Because it is considered a liability, even though the DEP does direct you to your health department. And the health department has been receiving all this data as of September. They're CC'd on every email that goes to every homeowner. And we did work with the DEP. We ourselves as residents of the street did request all that data. We receive it, as well as we requested that the health department receives it. So Libby's really sort of been our point person as far as communicating with various departments, since there is, I guess, a liability of some kind in talking with individuals about this situation. And so, we have asked Libby to talk to the various departments to see if there's a way for the town to fund the hookup, because we know the DEP is going to identify the potentially responsible party known as the PRP, and then we'll issue a notice a responsibility. And we feel they're getting very close to that. But we don't want to have to pay all this money up front. We know the town will get their money back if they have some funding that they can use to finance the hookup from the road. The Water Commission is paying the $600,000. I believe it's around $600,000 to put the main in. So, and the main should be in by the end of January, we hope, if everything goes according to plan. So,
Well, I'm sorry you have to go through all this, and we will.
Well, thank you, Dr. McNabb. And I was going to say, Curtis we met with the Water Commission this morning, also asking them for relief for the hook-in costs. It's $5,000 per hook-in, and they did agree to reduce that cost and also defer the payment because we all are pretty confident the DEP has a very good track record. So.
Oh. Okay, we will.
Well, we hope. That's what they told us.
We will follow this. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your time.
You guys are getting bottled water?
The state, so originally, if you tested, I don't know how much you guys know about PFAS, but if you tested over 20 but under 90, the state is not required to provide you with bottled water, only if you test over 90. I would say more than half of our houses are testing over 90. Our highest reading is about 900 parts per trillion, which is very high. We wrote a letter to the DEP and to Libby Gibson back in September because I fall under the 90, but I'm over the 20. And so I was having to pay for my own water, and the state stepped up, and the state is now providing everybody with bottled water and doing a good job with that. They're also moving forward with the POS systems, which they're required to do by law, but they are aware that this water main is going in. So I'm hopeful that some of that money that they had set aside for the POS is going to be able to be applied to us. But I think it's a definite health hazard, not just for our residents of Tom's Way, but they did test houses around our neighborhood. And most of those, I think, we don't talk to everybody in those neighborhoods, but it's just something I think if people have the opportunity to have their wells tested, I think it's a good idea if they can. And this is happening all over the country, not just Nantucket. It's a new science. Like, I'm learning a lot about this. But I think this is going to happen more and more in Nantucket. And I think that Tom's Way is a great, in a way, project, I guess. I don't know the right words to use, but a model for how you may handle this going forward with other residents and other neighborhoods. So
I don't
Okay,
know.
thank you.
Yeah.
I would just like to comment that I think we know that 0 parts per trillion is safe in PFAS. There's no safe level, whether it is 20 or 90 or no safe level. So I really feel like the town needs, and the airport commission needs to step up and get the people who are affected by it. And I know by the airport, we know why it was affected, and the airport is not stepping up and paying for the people who tested below 20 parts per trillion, but are 12, 15, 18, that they're not paying for them to hook up to water. And I really think that that's a crime, because we know it is from.
Well, wait a minute, Meredith, I wouldn't.
Okay, I just think it's wrong.
Express your
We should be
concern, but I
helping these
wouldn't use-
people.
Well, I do know the
You
EPA
can-
regulations are going to be changing too in April, so that those people will be captured. So that's why I said this is a national thing. This is not just Nantucket, but I think that I have lived here my entire life, and I am just a little bit stunned that the levels are so high in one concentrated area, and that there's no, you don't want to go out and advertise it, but I think people need to be aware to get their wells tested for PFAS, not just when you sell your house. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. And this is a copy of the letter. I just want to make sure.
Again, it's certainly PFAS is on everyone's radar, and it's a lot needs to be done by everyone. Do we really have minutes from last meeting? I don't think so.
Yeah, they're in the back.
I didn't see them.
It's, very first thing.
And let's put them off to next week, because I haven't read them.
Okay.
To approve. And I have some time limits here. Is Ann still with us?
I think Anne just left.
Okay, so I'll have to stay.
The rest of the meeting is pretty non-controversial.
Yeah, hopefully so.
We've heard that.
Okay, we have some septic loan requests. We have recommendations from staff. Let's just go through these. First one, 74 Arkansas Avenue.
Yes, this is for a year-round resident. New purchase. It's a conventional system being moved to an IA. We have no objections.
Do I hear a motion?
A motion to accept.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor by roll call, Meredith Lepre,
yes.
Carrie McKenna.
Yes.
The board chairman says aye, those, loan is approved. 41 Tennessee Avenue,
This
the
is,
recommendation is approve up to 50% of the cost. Comments, Roberto?
this is based off of our new policy that we voted on back in, I think, September. So yeah, 50% of the cost is not even referenced.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 50% cost.
Do I hear a second?
Motion to accept.
Chairman says aye, the loan's approved for 41 Tennessee Avenue. The next is 108 Surfside Road. There was some comments about this, Roberto.
Correct, and I know that the applicant is in attendance, so I'll put their on shortly. The recommendation that we have is a denial based on the new policy that we had voted in, because this is for new construction. But in the meantime, Jessica, just go ahead and unmute yourself and, floor is yours.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm holding my infant, so I'd like to apologize now if you hear any crying in the background.
No worries.
So yes, we do need a new septic system for the property. The existing septic system originally went to the existing cottage that is on our property and my parents' property behind us. So after we subdivided the lot, the septic system ended up on their property, so that is going to remain their septic system. So we do need a new septic system for the existing dwelling there, and at the same time we are building a single family home for ourselves, so we would tie into it. But the main concern right now is getting the existing building, which is the cottage, onto the septic system.
Okay, thank you. And your comment, Roberto, it's not as to our policy because it's new construction,
Because it's new construction for the new house.
right? And that is our written policy,
Correct.
right? I will say, Jessica, you write beautifully.
Thank you so much.
Your
I
letter-
appreciate that.
Your letter was extremely well written, so.
Thank you.
All
I
right,
appreciate that. I've been trying to do this on my own since the beginning, the process of the whole building a house and taking everything over. And I'm trying to keep my family here because I was born and raised, and we are locals, and
Yeah.
the cottage does need the septic system. So this is a really huge part of our loan that we're getting from the bank, is the determination of the septic with the betterment.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I think the way our policy reads, it'll be difficult. Do I have a comments or a motion from the board?
Wow.
And it's like, we would love to, but again, I think we rewrote the policies and updated them to try to reflect what we thought were issues or problems with the old policy. And I guess my first thought was there any way to work this into the original mortgage since it's new construction? Just to because that's part of building a house, is having a place to, move waste. So, is there any way to go back to the bank and renegotiate to fold it into the mortgage? Because I think, we're kind of, if we're going to follow the policies we set, we're kind of, locked in.
Right now, I don't have the existing funds for the septic. I would obviously have to take it from somewhere else if that was the case. And I do understand the policy. I was just, I did apply hoping for the cottage right now because that is our main concern at the moment. And we do need to disconnect from the old septic to go onto the cottage. So that's really where the level of concern is at the moment, is that existing dwelling. And then because we are building, obviously we would tie into it, but it really is the concern about that cottage.
So who's getting the septic technically, the cottage or the new construction?
Yes.
No, it can't be, but well, but who technically?
On the survey for
The
the
cottage.
site, both, it's
They're
gonna
both
be
gonna
one
use it.
septic, one septic for both buildings.
Right, but technically, who's getting
She
the,
is. She's
the new
owner
construction?
of the new construction.
Okay.
I took over that cottage when we subdivided the lot. So the cottage is existing right now. It's rented out year round to the hospital, and we have to disconnect from the existing septic that is there to be able to connect the cottage to the new one.
Are they two separate properties? Like, could they put an AI system in for the whole lot?
That's what I will be doing. I do
Yeah,
need
that's
to.
There is an
doing.
AI going into this lot. We've already had the nitrogen reduction variance granted.
Well, here we go again.
For the whole
Yeah.
property, all three dwellings?
Well, they have more than enough area to have their number of bedrooms. That's in the existing main house. And it was subdivided for them to be able to give land to their daughter.
Okay, so let me ask it this way. If the cottage, which has been separated, the property's been split.
Yeah.
If the cottage applied for the new septic system,
Well, she is
that's,
the same person.
Right,
Gonna
but-
own all two buildings.
right, but are they separate properties now?
But she's putting.
Yeah, yes, they are separate. The
Yeah,
cottage is not on the original lot.
right. I guess I'm trying to think, is there a way to essentially have the cottage, which is the existing structure, be the applicant?
The
And-
cottage is the applicant.
That they are the applicant, but the
It's not-
septic that
but
it's
because-
attached to was on the other lot.
Right. The way they wanted it subdivided, the septic system is on the existing
Yeah.
main lot.
Okay, is there, a
Just,
way-
what-
can they
just,
play
just
with
from the
that?
mallet here, with the individual speaking, identify themselves,
Well,
please.
Michael Conley, sorry, surveyor.
Would there be a way to rearrange that so that it's on the original lot? And maybe gives us a way to, gives us something
Yeah, I would
to,
imagine, but I don't see the reason for it.
with new construction.
I understand that, but
Don Bracken, just a suggestion, actually, Mr. Levin's idea is if the cottage is what, 2 bedrooms and the new house is 3 bedrooms?
yes,
What if you just give them a loan for the 2-bedroom portion of it? In other words, calculate that percentage of the total cost of the system and give them a partial loan, only dealing with the cottage.
Yeah, I mean,
6 to 7%.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay. That sounds, so what is,
Right?
Well, him, Mr.
No.
Levin.
Thank you, Mr. Levin.
So, can I make a motion?
go right ahead.
A motion to approve 67% loan for 108 Surfside for the cottage.
What is it? 2 out of 5 bedrooms is the cottage, so the cottage would be
2
40%.
Oh,
But even then, I mean,
so 43%.
Yes, you have to amend it.
Amended my motion to say approve a loan for 43% of the cost of the septic so that the cottage will be able to hook up.
I would second that, jump happily.
Okay, a vote by roll call, Carrie McKenna,
Yes.
Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
Chairman says aye. It is approved for the percentage as stated in the motion for 108 Surfside. Septic loan 15 Folger Avenue.
Yes.
Comments for Berger?
Same, no objection on this one with the septic sewer application for advanced septic.
Do I hear a motion from the board?
Motion to approve 15 Folger Ave. Septic to
Do I hear
sewer.
Second,
have a s-
second to approve 15 Folger Ave.
Okay, roll call. Carrie McKenna,
Yes,
Meredith Lepre.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. 15 Folgers, loan is approved. Septic loan 3244 South Cambridge Street.
Yes, so this is the Massasoit Village Condominium Association. It's one of the two shared systems on the property. So this whole association is owned by a bunch of, not bunch of, but like a lot of not year-round residents, seasonal residents.
Right.
So we recommend that we approve up to 50% of this one.
I just had one.
Go ahead.
It's, again, and I probably know it's fine, but again, I see Long Pond is sitting right there and Massasoit Village is right there. I live in the area. Are we okay with the actual location in relation to Long Pond?
Oh, the permit application is sound. It's
Okay.
it's the funding.
Yeah, I'm just asking that because I mean, I look at the map and I also know the area, so just wanted to make sure that there's any question. There's a bunch of wetlands in that corner.
Yeah, not to my knowledge, but we have an issue with the location.
I mean, we'll be reviewing that, and I believe the designer's actually on the Zoom if he wants to speak, but we will review that in the office and, to make sure it meets maximum feasible
Okay.
compliance as there's an existing system there, it's just failed, so.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, just wanted, that's a concern I have, but I'd make a motion to approve the 50%, which is what they're eligible for under the new rules.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call. Meredith Lepre,
Aye.
Carrie McKenna.
Aye.
Chairman says aye, and the loan for 3244 South Cambridge is approved. What do we have here? Variance 234 Matica Road.
Finding back it now.
Yeah, it's Massasoit Village was 4,000 pages.
Oh, so yes, this one is Mr. Levin and Don Bracken are here. This is a property to allow the construction of an extra space in the property ahead of the installation of the IA system that is already permitted and valid. We don't, as it stands, we don't see a problem with it. But if the new septic system is installed by the date, you are eligible for the 1-year extension as listed. But we have no current objections to this.
Comments, questions from the board?
So are they asking for an extension?
For variance.
It's the variance, but they need to start the construction concurrently. Usually we ask for the IA system to be putting it to the ground first. But due to extenuating circumstances, the construction is to begin concurrently.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second motion to approve.
No further discussion. So all in favor of the variance for 234 Matica Road? Carrie McKenna,
Yes. Aye.
Meredith Lepre.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. The variance for 234 Matica Road is approved. 10 Skyline Drive, nitrogen loading.
Yes, this is very similar to a couple of loading credits that we've applied for, that have been applied for before. We have no issue with this one. Simply no objection.
Questions or comments from the board?
Looks straightforward.
Hello, someone got,
Yeah.
I lost you.
Oh, no. It's just like, I have no questions or concerns. I mean,
Do I hear a motion?
A 12-bedroom capacity?
Yeah.
Is it a new house being built there?
I don't know. Is it a new house? I think the applicant, yeah, Art, you're here.
I could address that if you'd like, Mr. Chairman. The property is being redeveloped, and the septic system would provide capacity if needed for any additional structures, you know, on the property. Ultimately, it's requesting the system that would be the amount that would be allowed using an IA system for the size of that lot. So we're not asking for any relief from you know, what's allowed under Title V and the loading rate. It's strictly in accordance with the using the IA systems. It's only I think because, you know, with respect to the local regulation for the nitrogen loading within the wellhead. And I would add also, as I put in the letter, that the town water is also being extended to this area, and I anticipate that they likely would connect. But also, should anybody else have any concerns, I mean, there's an additional option for town water. So I think from a perspective of environmental protection, that the system would meet that. It'd be an IA system. I also think that you're better off with an IA system that's subject to an O&M contract and get more careful oversight and reporting than you are with a conventional system. So when you factor in that you could have an 8-bedroom conventional system or the 12-bedroom with the advanced nitrogen removal and the O&M contract, it's actually better, and that's my personal opinion. And we are not near either of the harbors where the concern for nitrogen is you know, algae growth and those types of protections that I think that's there for. So I don't think that this is likely to have any adverse impact on the wellhead protection district, and that it's justified. Thank you.
Okay, board.
You know, I mean, I'll express my normal concern, which is going from 8, you know, 8, and we say, so we're gonna put a better system in, so now we can go to 12. So it's like, in the end, it's like, well, we're gonna put the same amount of crap out there, but we put more people, we have more people doing it. And I'm just,
I know
there's something about that bothers me.
Carrie, I can't disagree more. It's just
a funny
12
game.
12 bedrooms. That means 24 people, 100 people. It's a small hotel eventually, but we have to.
I know.
You and Jim always remind me we have to follow rules.
Yeah, I know, but.
So
I feel the same way, but motion to approve 10 Skyline.
Do we have a second?
Second the motion to approve 10 Skyline.
Further discussion? The chairman has an emotional issue, but he will, I'll vote for it too. So 10 Skyline Drive is approved. We have to,
Thank you.
I'll make my editorial comments later. I'm working on something else relating to all of this, but that will come. 63 Starbuck Drive variance.
This one's a basic property line setback issue. The system complies in every other way. It's just property lines. We have no problem.
Any comments, questions from the board?
Is it near water?
It's
Not in the wetland setback.
It's
Okay.
63. So it should be by Goose Neck Cove. You can't find the
area
map.
that the brush cut. It's all by itself up on the top of the hill there.
Yeah, I
It's
can't.
difficult, certainly.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, John Hedden, the only abutter actually that's affected and needed to be notified was the town of Nantucket, because that's the only one affected by
Did the town of Nantucket respond?
We did not receive a response. I don't see anyone in the room for the town of Nantucket to object. So therefore, we had no concerns.
Thank you.
Motion to approve 63 Starbuck Road.
Second the motion to approve for 63 Starbuck Road.
Roll call, Carrie McKenna,
Yes.
Meredith Lepre,
Yes.
chairman says yes. 63
I'm
Starbuck
back, guys.
variance is approved. Oh, we missed you.
You didn't realize that you went longer than, anyway, I'm back.
That's just made me jump.
Well, okay, so we're almost done. We've just approved a 12-bedroom septic system.
Oh,
It'll make you happy. All right, variance for 181B Pulpus Road. It's a well regulation variance.
Yes, so this one, we actually put in a recommendation to deny it because we do believe that it is possible to meet the regulation
No,
based on the current property.
no, even in the farthest towards the
Wait,
water.
please identify yourself.
Oh, Michael Conley, sorry, surveyor for the site, 181D. I came into the site recently. Chip Hart, rest his soul, and Teddy King did all the work on the subdivision prior. They had built a house, a second dwelling with a septic system on the lot, sharing a well. And what happened is then they subdivided the second dwelling off and they were sharing a well, and now they need to separate the well. But nowhere on that lot, due to topography, wetlands, any bike path, there's no way you can make that 300-foot separation due to the fact that it's an interesting down gradient issue because you could almost put it 3 or 4 different ways to put the down gradient on there. I used the abutting down gradient that Chip and Teddy had put in, and it's shown on the plan. The only lot that it affects is the owner's lot. It doesn't affect anybody else's lot. The house to the southeast is way over 300 feet away, and it's pretty much all wetlands. To put the well up next to you'd probably have to put it in the bike path to make the separate. You can't make the 300-foot separation from the existing septic system.
And why are they separating from the?
They were already separated, and that's now got involved. It was a planning board. They separated it. I don't know why. I do know why the septic leach area is in the spot it is because of the great amount of wetlands that separate it. It is over 100 feet from all the wetlands for the leach area. So we're just trying to make a bad situation better by putting it where it is. We've gone to the Concom. The Concom has allowed us to put the well where it is. It's away from the wetlands, over 50 feet, and you can't make the 300-foot down gradient unless you change the down gradient arc and make it left to right or right to left. So I think it would be the best thing to do is to grant it because it affects only their lot, no one else's lot, and it's his water that he's going to drink. And the well is going to be, it's at least going to be 130 feet down in the ground. Because that's where the evidence.
Comments, question, response, Roberto, or John, or someone?
It's a very tough property. It's a situation that had the subdivision never happened, we wouldn't be in this situation. Is my standing on this one. This is a shooting yourself in the foot kind of a situation, in my opinion. Yes, the wetlands are an issue. But if we don't approve this one, we end up having to condemn the house because there's no water. So it's a different board forcing our hand.
And I'm gonna ask again,
Well-
why can't the existing well serve both properties?
Richard Mack, I'm the owner. What happened was in June, my dad died, and we're gonna put his property up for sale. And I can't share a well with, new homeowners. This is, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place on this thing. I really gotta have this. I can't be having no water in the house, and it's pretty much the only place it can go. If Dad was still alive, this wouldn't be an issue. We'd still share it, the well like we always did, but I'm not gonna be able to do that.
Well, I'm gonna ask why, 'cause I share with a neighbor that, and again, separate housing, and the two houses come off of one well. We have to work together when it comes to repairs and stuff, but I mean, we do it because it's what we got. So, it might be tough, but can one existing well serve both properties with deed restrictions and that kind of thing put in place to protect both parties' interests?
That I don't know. What I'm concerned about is when Dad's place is sold, God knows what kind of monstrosity is gonna go up in its place. It could be, I don't know how many bathrooms Michael could go on.
Up to 12, I think.
No. And could I share it? Maybe, but I'd be concerned about running the thing dry with people with a pool and then renters taking one shower after another. It's kind of risky.
And this is in an area that town water would be coming out to
If
any
town
time.
were out there, I'd be in the driveway with an
Yeah.
excavator myself.
Yeah, but I mean, do we know in any terms of long-term planning, is town water heading out that way, or is that not on the horizon? Okay, just want to ask, I mean.
Little past Schimmel Road, I think.
Okay, just wanted to, kind of want to get everything off the table or on the table, so at least we know what we're dealing with.
Like I said, I'm really caught here between a rock and a hard place. I kind of really need this,
Yeah, John Hedden. So each lot does have to be served by its own property well, by its own well supply. And so unfortunately what happened here is, unfortunately for the situation, what I kind of say is it's kind of backdooring your way into approvals in a sense, because, the subdivision happened and, unfortunately the well, I'm not sure what happened with planning on that, but, again, each property needs to be served by its own well. So, fortunately, those things, need to be taken into consideration at the time that those subdivisions happen. It'd be nice if there was a way this could work somehow.
I'm not, no. I'm sorry. I'm not hearing a good solution here.
I have a question.
Meredith, you had something to say?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the fact that it's gonna be 130 feet down is something that would go in their favor, because it just sounds like it would be down away, but also down far enough that it would be way below anything that the septic would get near, my impression.
The theory behind the well is that the deeper it is, the cleaner the water. That's
Right.
what's there. We've never actually made that provision in any of the regulations. It makes scientific sense. This is not a provision we've ever.
Yeah.
put in.
It's also the same aquifer though, too, as a
It's also-
neighbor. I mean, it's just one, I mean, either
Right.
one could pump it dry.
Yeah.
In reality.
There are As far as the lens, the aquifer lens there, it's actually surprisingly robust. The chance of it running by it dry is slim, but there is always a chance for it to run dry. But at that depth, not so much. The deeper the well is, the less of the contamination caused by chemicals that float. You see, so there is definitely logic in what Meredith is bringing up.
I guess for in a situation like this where it is for people who are part of our community and living here year round, it's not for a summer McMansion that they want to have a deep well so they can fill their pool. And it is going to be really far down, so the chance of contamination is low, and I don't like variances. I feel like that is I can sleep at night with that. That is my,
So when it's 130 feet, that's the horizontal distance from the leach facility. It's not 130 feet down.
no, but it's 130 feet over. No,
It's 130 feet away and 130 feet
2
down.
feet down.
yeah,
Right, so X squared times Y squared.
so that makes me think it would be,
As I look at it, unfortunately, and the cost would be to get more property and move the leach facility.
Well, again, I'm looking, if I look at the map, it's almost like whoever subdivided it, like they screwed themselves. I mean, there's they created a small space and left this much larger space. If that line went straight down, there would have been more over here to play with.
if those two properties were made a condo instead of two separate lots, it would have been fine. Is that a possibility?
What's that?
No.
No,
Yeah, the land use law is very different. I think
Yes,
there's a specific thing in this area that doesn't allow conduit, because I know a couple of people who tried it. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm not a zoning expert or a planning expert, but I do know that there is something that prevents it there.
okay.
Okay. So are we working ourselves to a motion, someone?
I'll make a motion to approve it due to the depth of the well being 130 feet down.
So you're making a motion to approve the variance. And essentially, you're putting a condition on it that the well must be 130 feet down.
Because they said it was going to be.
Yeah.
The other one is right.
Dad, the thing is out there, you're in silt and iron, and other people have gone 185 feet to get out of the iron and getting into better water all the.
It's a topographically tough and geologically,
So they would be going down that far anyway.
no matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. So
So that's my
Meredith made a motion to approve the variance. Do I hear a second?
This is a tough one, but a second, a bad situation was created. And I really wish town departments would work together better, because we shouldn't be dealing with stuff like this.
No, we shouldn't.
This is bad planning, and
yeah,
I don't want to see someone, be forced out of the house because bad decisions were made and we're left at the end to say whether you're going to have water or not. But this kind of stuff is just annoying, to put it mildly. But I have a motion I second them. That was a preamble to a second motion.
All right, we got it.
Yeah, you got it. Sorry.
I think we all had a wonderful day, quite a day. All right. So any further discussion? Hearing none, by roll call. Ann Smith,
Yes.
Carrie McKenna,
Yes.
Meredith Lepre.
Yes.
Chairman says aye, the variance is granted. We have one more. I hope it's not long because I have to go soon. Anyways, variance of 62 Arkansas Road.
Same thing, property line setbacks, we have no issue with this application.
This you?
I just had,
Any comments from the board?
I just had one that, they sent the letter to the abutters, Abram, they've been dead for 2 years. So, and.
Kelly assesses that.
And the son has been active, that's a property that we condemned last year, and I know that the son was finally tracked down. And, yeah, so I'm not sure if proper notice was given. I mean, they've been dead for a while. I know that.
So we get a certified list from the assessor's office. That's the best we can do, and that's the information we receive, so.
Because I know that from the condemnation notices that the son was tracked down. And that ultimately he did respond. And again, I live in the area, I know those how, you know, so it's like, I know who owns what. And that kind of bothers me that, you know, it's like, well, we notified the dead people and they didn't respond.
But I think I did what they could under the law.
I know but.
All right, do I hear any questions from the board, motions, questions?
I mean, other than that.
So do you guys recommend it?
I didn't see any
Yes.
issues, and it's really the tanks, is that correct,
Yeah,
Don?
it's a very convoluted situation, as everybody knows. You know, they're small 2,000 square foot lots. It looks like condominiums, but it's not. And that's why we have to ask for the variances, because the lot's only 20 feet wide and we're trying to put a septic tank in the middle someplace. And there's a common area that has a blanket easement for everyone to utilize to put either their septic tanks or leaching systems on. So this one was extremely complicated. There was really only one location we could go to get far enough for groundwater and get the well separations and so forth. And so we have to pump it probably, 120 feet away in the best location possible. That's the highest location. So IA system requirements.
I don't see a lot of controversy here. Do I have a motion?
That's a motion to approve. I mean, that area is tough to put septic systems in because I live in.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Without this, I hear no request for discussion. By roll call, Meredith Lepre.
Aye.
Carrie McKenna.
Yes, aye.
Ann Smith.
Yes.
Chairman says aye. And that variance is approved. We did the caddy program. And just a quick update, and then I really have to go.
Washington Avenue.
We
have one more.
Yeah. We have one more, Malcolm. 6 Washington.
Why don't I see that on my agenda?
It's second to last.
Number 14, the modified agenda.
I don't have the modified agenda. I'm going to be really rude then and leave this over to Meredith because I have an appointment.
Of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Malcolm.
And I will see you all. Just one quick, as far as our letter to the about physicals for the firemen. I never received a response until I asked for a response, and I got a response that said they were in negotiations about it. So I was a little upset that I had to go digging for a response, but apparently what's happening at the present time is the union and the town are talking about it. I wish you all happy holidays.
Happy holiday.
Likewise.
And I really appreciate your comments yesterday. I watched the meeting.
All right.
Right. So 6 and 6A Washington Ave.
Yes. So this is the property we've had this pop up.
All right, we can go.
Okay. We've had this property pop up a couple times about the composting restroom that's there. There is a application from. So what we see the issue here, every once in a while, there's a technology application that gets brought up. Over the time, we have denied it multiple times. However, this time there is a new system that's on the provisional route use that is being proposed. As is, the recommendation from the staff is denial. However, discussions can be had to see if we can make this system work. So that's why, Don, we put you, yes, I'm here for the applicant.
Yeah, so we submitted a lot of information, you know, we don't expect everyone to have digested it by now, so hopefully we can kind of start this off and get people thinking, and hopefully we can come to some kind of resolution. But so the history of this project, I'm not sure, I know Malcolm was around, but I'm not sure if you guys were around, but originally there was one 2-bedroom cottage on the property. And the owner of this property also owned a lot at the end of Washington Ave on the water. And so back around 2010, 2011, we got approval to move the house that was on the ocean to this lot. Now the lot's 13,000 square feet, and that house was 2 bedrooms, so that was going to bring a total of 4 bedrooms on this property. So at that time, we got still considered an IA system approved, not the type that we're usually talking about, to take the existing 2-bedroom septic system that was there, convert that into a gray water system, and put black water composting systems in each structure. And so it was built, everything, you know, operated as it was supposed to. And then the owners, Gail and Roy Greenwald, started having a lot of problems maintaining these systems, the odors, and so forth. So we came back in front of the board, as Roberta mentioned, a couple of times over the past 5 or 6 years to see if the board would entertain other alternatives. One alternative that we asked for was just to put a tight tank in, so there'd be 0 discharge. You know, the board didn't agree with that. Obviously, we know that it's very difficult to get tight tanks approved. So then they decided, okay, we're just going to accept it the way it is and leave it the way it is. And then, I don't know, about 9 or 10 months ago, the existing gray water system was inspected, and that was found to be in hydraulic failure. So now the Greenwalds are back to, okay, looking at, well, you know, now we do have to replace the gray water system. Let's take a look around. Maybe there's better technology. Maybe we can go back to the Board of Health and, you know, demonstrate that we can make adjustments, and so that there'll be a positive net benefit to the environment and groundwater and so forth. Hence, a lot of the information that we submitted in the package with the Board of Health. So what they're proposing is to go from a total of 4 bedrooms down to 3 bedrooms, and remove or disconnect the composting toilets and put them into a new septic tank, IA treatment system, and a new leaching system for the 3 bedrooms that exist. So what is the newest technology that's out there right now is called the Clean 2 Nitro system. And actually, we have John Smith from Clean 2 on tonight that could explain it a lot better than I can on how the system operates and the benefits of the system. What they've found is that the testing results so far for many systems that they have on the Cape and Martha's Vineyard, the results are coming in for total nitrogen at around 6 parts per million. Drinking water standards is 10 parts per million. The standard IA systems that we design, that everyone else on the island has designed, they're rated for 19 parts per million. So this technology—
Sorry, per million or trillion?
Million.
Okay.
So this technology is obviously treating and removing nitrogen much better than the systems that we've been using and that we normally see. And the basic, I think, concept of the system is it has 2, you know, you have a standard septic tank, then it goes into another tank that has 2 chambers. The first tank is an aeration chamber, similar to the other IA systems like the Septic Tech and the Microfast. But then the second chamber is filled with wood chips. So the effluent has to flow through the wood chips. You know, John can explain it, but it polishes out, you know, the nitrogen, and you end up with the 6 parts per million as it's being tested. It's basically the easiest way to put it. It's almost like having a daisy chain of 2 different IA type systems to get that amount of removal. So the other thing that we included in the package was we did analysis on the total nitrogen for the property, not just looking at the sewage flows in effluent rates, pre-treatment and no treatment. We took into consideration roof areas and lawn areas. And this is pretty common practice on the Cape, and we do it quite often in a lot of our projects on the Cape. So there's a method established by the Cape Cod Commission that we use to calculate the nitrogen loading in different scenarios for the property. So not going to take you through all the numbers and everything else. Hopefully you get a chance to digest it at some point. I'm not sure how much John has been able to look at it either, but so if we were just to replace the gray water system and keep the composting toilets, we have a nitrogen loading of 10.4 parts per million. Now, we're required to upgrade the soil absorption system. So there's kind of a gray area. Nantucket, you need an IA system, but I don't think there's been a design yet for just a gray water system. So we ran the numbers. If we put an IA system in with the gray water system, and we end up at 6.7 parts per million, and that's keeping the composting toilets. So our goal was, okay, that's what's required right now. No matter what, I don't think any variances or anything, we would be down to 6.7 parts per million. So when we proposed the Clean 2 system, along with reducing the lawn area, the nitrogen loading calculations come out to 5.9 parts per million. So what we're trying to demonstrate is, the bottom line is we could keep things the way they are, just replace the gray water system, keep the composting toilets. Or, we could introduce this Clean 2 system, reduce the lawn area. We would, obviously, be subject to monitoring and to make sure that, the numbers that we're presenting work. We could always revert back to the composting toilets if for somehow, some reason that it didn't produce the numbers that are promised. And so we think hopefully overall you'll consider it. And from a technical standard, we don't see any reason why this wouldn't be allowed, especially since if meeting the regulations would be a higher nitrogen load than introducing this system. The other thing that would be interesting, and we discussed this with Roberto and John, is we can get real data on the island, with the summer uses and everything else that's obviously different than most other places for this specific system. And if this is, doing much better than the standard systems that we already have out there, then this is definitely something that, the board or engineers would need to take a serious look at and consider using rather than what we've been using.
What happens to the wood chips? I mean, are they forever, or does it get pumped out and fresh ones are brought in on a yearly, 2-yearly basis? I mean,
that's a good question. So we had the same question because they did a lunch and learn at our office as well. And I'm going to let John answer that, but that's supposedly not an issue because they're submerged all the time. So there's no air that can get in there and create any rot. But they do get inspected, to make sure that something like that is not happening.
And is there an O&M contract that would be required on this type of system? Like with the new, most of the IA systems we do that you have to have a yearly contract. Would that apply to this, or does this float outside of that?
No, it's the same requirements for that. Only it's actually more stringent because this system is approved by the state under provisional use, not general use. Like the other systems we have are approved under general use because they were established. So
I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, provisional use is 4 times a year?
Yes.
Yeah, there he is. All right.
Yeah.
No, provisional use is 4 times a year.
Yes.
For what?
For the general use septic systems, typical IAs that you see on the island, only get tested twice a year for their nitrogen load. Under provisional use, they have to be tested 4 times a year. I don't know if it's quarterly or I think it's
Quarterly.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wasn't sure if it was a sentinel test and a confirmatory test. And then that goes straight to the state as well. So it is part of the O&M contract. It's just a little bit more strict.
Is this a home that's used year round?
Yes, yeah. At least one of them I know. I'm not sure about the back one,
Yeah.
but yeah. And we can, I mean, there's the minimum testing requirements, but you know, you can always condition it for additional testing requirements as well. Especially in this case, because you know, you're gonna have much heavier use in the summer than you would. So we may want to add an additional inspection during the summer period. But John may be able to answer that question too, because of the systems that they have out in Martha's Vineyard and how the results may vary, you know, for those type of uses.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're getting even results that are surprising me. We have now this last week we put in 98 total systems on Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, and I sent Don a short presentation, but basically we have, of the 98 systems that are involved, we're seeing 6 to 7 parts per million on average, in 4.6 as a median, the median number. And the influent is 110 parts per million. So it's going in at 110 and coming out at 4 to 6 part per million on average. And so with this results, we started off, we've been in business. Well, I just did it as, you know, kind of a scientist when I stopped working for Alcoa, which was a major company. Had a rental place on the vineyard, and I started playing around with it. And we've been in business for since 2017, 2018. We have 2 systems operating at the Massachusetts Test Center with George Hoyfelder. And if you know of him, and he is supportive of it, and you can call him and check with him in the results we're getting. In fact, like I said, we have 2 units going, and I what maybe makes sense is, if there's anyone interested, I can we can have another Zoom call, and I can go through the data, you know, or when I come back in January, I can come out to Nantucket if there's interest of this. So I'll stop with that.
Got 2 questions. First one is housekeeping. For the record, for our minutes taker, she's out in California. Can you say your name?
Sure. Donald Bracken,
And then
Bracken Engineering, John Smith.
okay,
From-
John Smith, you're from.
And that's my real name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, I see you had your provisional approval through May 12th of 2025. In the event that does not go through for whatever reason or another, does not get accepted for general use, what's the plan for the property with the system?
I assume it would be like any other provisional use that gets approved. If it's, I think the whole purpose of provisional use is to monitor the testing, and if it doesn't test as projected, then the Board of Health has the right to make them change the system. So I think, in whether or not it gets extended, a lot of provisional uses have just expired. You know what I mean? But I think the systems are okay to remain in the ground and stay operational unless that scenario happens, unless the Board of Health steps in and say, hey, under provisional use, you're not testing as required, you can force them to change the system. But as far as as much as I know about it, but John, I'm sure knows more about that process.
Once we got provisional use, up to provisional use, we maybe had 12 systems installed. And because of the numbers that we're seeing, once we got provisional use, you can have more than 50 and we're up to 100. Next year, we're anticipating 80 units and larger units we're putting in to handle and the town of Tisbury on the vineyard got approval with ARPA funding, and they have regulations that as their system fails, they have to put in an IA technology that achieves 12 parts per million. And we're the only technology that can do that. I'm not bragging or anything, but when we started this, I said we did it mainly to make the ponds and lagoons better. And we saw that as we started down this road, doing 15, 19 parts per million, there's enough other people that can get that. And we want it to be on a par with central soaring from a nitrogen standpoint. It's not that I'm against central soaring. It's that I wanted the IA technology and the central soaring to be on an equal par. So when you look at the two, you evaluate them both collectively. And on the Cape and the islands, we're beginning to see that because of the numbers we're getting. Again, I'm going to stop that. I don't want to make it. I did it mainly with it to protect the ponds and lagoons. And that's the main focus, and keep local workforce employed.
Anne, do you have any comments?
No, I mean, I just think this technology sounds remarkable.
Does anyone want to make a motion, or do you guys?
No, I would like to hear, from the, you brought, one is provisional, and if it were to lose that status, they now have to install a new system, which, I mean, are they aware that could be a double system in a couple of years?
Yes,
So are they?
yeah, they're aware of
They're
that.
fully aware.
Yep.
And just like the variance has a property, a lot of property is tight there. I mean, just think Washington Avenue is that is a very tight piece of property. And are there any concerns in terms of this system and the setbacks, or is there any system that would solve those problems? I mean, are we kind of in one of those, no matter what we do, there's going to have to be a series of variances that are going to have to be enacted because of the size of the property and where it's located? I mean, or does this system, by its design, have a uniqueness that requires a different set?
Like you said, it's a tight property. And there's always going to be issues like that. The maximum feasible compliance portions are always an interesting minefield to navigate. It does have a provisional approval through May 12th of 2025. It is also it's an interesting technology. It's something I would like to see how it works. The board has the power to put a time limit and the standards that were written in the application.
Yeah, you recommend to deny partly because of the provisional status. Is that
the original, the denial, the recommendation?
Yeah, the recommendation to deny, excuse me.
Is based on the fact that it doesn't meet our codes. It doesn't meet the original agreement regarding the gray water system and the nitrogen loading portion.
If I can say, with regard to going from provisional to general use, we haven't seen any number greater than 19. And so we'll get the general approval. What we're looking for is a general approval for less than 10. That opens up a whole new, that competes with soaring on an equal par. We're not against soaring, but we want it to be evaluated on an equal basis. Because soaring, it makes sense, but if you're have a distance between homes, and that soaring doesn't make sense. So
I have a kind of a I mean, it's not a sewer
looks
or
like a
question, but you're a new company. And down the road, if, let's say 10 years from now, will you still be a company, and then how would the system be maintained? I'm just trying to think, again, from the homeowner, I would love to, in fact, Roberto and I have had discussions about, all the other alternative systems out there, but the other issue is that the company has to be in business to be there because these are unique systems. Is there any kind of protection or plan of continuity for a company? It might be a tough question, but it's just,
I
think that that's something that's on my mind when I gotta look at stuff like that.
I think the provisional use document itself has protection in it in case something like that happens. And I think it gives the Board of Health power to require them to change it to another system that's in business and still out there being maintained.
So we could
So-
provide the variance for 2 years and the 4 times a year testing.
I mean, I would gonna suggest too that you
And then if
could,
they don't meet it,
exactly, you could condition it that, we'll leave the composting toilets in place, and if it doesn't perform and the numbers don't equal what we're proposing, then you could require them to leave the system as a gray water system and go back to the composting toilets.
does anyone have a motion?
Well, again, that for something like that, I mean, what is, well, you guys know more about this stuff than I do, so
Yeah.
There are twists and turns, but yeah.
Worked on this for
Yeah.
a long time, going back to 2010, in which he got a nitrogen loading aggregate plan, which was at the time approved by DEP. So the lot's 13,000 square feet, is that correct, with the 2-bedroom system, with that small little cottage at the front. That's what existed previously. Then I think they're down at 334 Nantucket Road. Was where they moved the house from, now onto 6 Washington. Don was able to get the nitrogen aggregate plan approval using the now vacant lot at 334 added, which was I think 17,000 square feet added to 13,000 square feet. So they could put this 2-bedroom house on the lot with this 4-bedroom cottage, so you get 30,000 square feet. But part of that approval was that they would use composting toilets and just go with the gray water system, and that no black water would be discharged on the property. That was in the DEP approval. I think that's in the packet. And as part of the when you get that aggregate plan, there's a nitrogen loading, Granite Title 5 loading and easement plan. And when you read through that, prohibitions, a change in the condition of the credit land, which results in the credit or a portion thereof being within a velocity zone or regulatory floodway, will render the credit land or said portion thereof ineligible for the nitrogen credit pursuant to 310.15.216. I'm a little confused because I'm sure it was in the velocity zone when we get it approved.
Yeah,
I don't know how that was approved by DEP at that time with those prohibitions in place with this easement that was put here. So that was kind of the deal at the time when they were able to move the house is install the composting toilets and no black water would be discharged on the property. I guess my question would be has it been explored, higher technology composting toilets, have those been explored yet for, maybe for installation that might be a little bit better than what's currently exists for the property, so.
The only thing I say, I would have to check with the green walls, but I would assume that at this point they've done that with all the problems that they've had, that they've explored other options. I'm guessing that most systems have very similar types of performance. You know, yeah, and so I think that's been the problem, the historical problem with this property is that I think some board members felt, well, you made a deal, this is was your deal, so now you should stick with it. You know what I mean? Regardless of anything that could be done to improve the situation. So I think now we're in a unique situation where, you know, back over the years, we didn't have a system that had these results. And nobody really ever thought about, you know, reducing the amount of lawn area, which can be conditioned on a deed restriction. You know what I mean? To get the overall nitrogen load reduced. So it's a tough decision. Yeah, they made a deal, but now they're presenting something that's actually better for the environment than if they stick with that deal.
Well,
And they're going down a bedroom, correct?
Yeah, and they're reducing it by bedroom. Yeah.
I mean, it is still in the provisional use and we kind of go what DEP says. So
Yeah.
when they get that DEP approval stating what the parts per million is, I mean, that's when it's really certified, so to speak. You know, I guess as Don was kind of alluding to, you know, previous, you know, boards, kind of making the decisions that they did and the deal that was made. You know, and that's what it was, and now trying to move forward, and I understand that. I think, you know, if the board is to move forward with any of that, maybe you could set the parts per million at 6 or something for this new system. Let's push it to the limit to the best case scenario. If the gray water system with the composting was gonna get 6 parts per million, right? Is that correct?
That was gonna get 6.7.
So,
you know, we used for our calculations, we didn't use the 6, we used 10, figuring that was a safe number, and we still came out at 5.9 parts per million.
right.
So,
I'd like to say one thing, with the provisional permit is issued up to 2,000 gallons per day. So we can put in a mega mansion, if you will. And I applaud you questioning, you know, a 12-bedroom house, but anyway, but beyond the 2,000 gallons per day, up to 10,000 gallons per day, we put in a system 3 years ago treating 6,600 gallons per day in West Falmouth, the Civic Light Opera Company. And that's under a pilot permit. And now we just got word that on Martha's Vineyard, they're building workforce housing and a Navigator, which is a rehabilitation center. And that's going to generate about 20,000 gallons per day. And they're going to go with the nitro system. And that's banking on that's a $50 million job between the workforce housing and the rehabilitation center called Navigator. And you can call the Edgartown Board of Health, and they looked at going with soaring, and that was too slow because it would have they haven't finished their CWMP yet, and they want to move for this. So, you know, they're putting I spent like 7 years on Martha's Vineyard developing this technology and working with the various people, and like I said, George Heufelder and others. So it's not like we've done this in a vacuum. And as I said, I mainly did this to make the ponds and lagoons better. So you can see my age. I'm not young. I started another company just to, it was the right thing to do, so.
Where does the Nantucket Road property that was mentioned earlier come into this? I mean, is this, it is using, you know, the extra square footage. I mean, is that still a player, or is that something that is not, we're only dealing with the 4 Washington Avenue lot now?
No, yeah, that's still part of the equation. And no matter what gets approved here, all those documents would have to get modified and new documents recorded, you know, to reflect the change. And then I'm sure we'll have deed restrictions on the property as well as already deed restriction. There was also another wrinkle. I don't know if you're going to bring it up, John, but after the system was installed and approved, they thought it was a good idea to divide it into 2 lots because of ground cover reasons. And then when this came up again, realized, well, technically they can't do that because they don't have a shared septic system technically. And so they're going back, this is going back to as 1 lot. In case you saw the online, it shows it as 2, but you know, part of the proposal is put it back to 1. So, I mean, we're happy to suggest to continue it, and so that, you know, if you wanted to look at the information, and it's up to you, John, Roberto, if they need more time looking into the system itself.
What does everyone think? Thoughts? Do you want to push it to next month, or do you want to make a decision?
I think we could make a decision.
You want to make a motion?
Let me ask Roberto and John, you know, is there any information you folks would get that would potentially alter? I mean, or is the provisional status really the thing and that can't be changed right now? I mean, that is what it is. So, and you know, from your, you know, is there any other approach that would solve their problem? Again, that would be within, I guess, like the historical stuff we deal with in terms of where we got to bend. I mean, that lot's going to require variance no matter what for something, probably.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, so that's an interesting point, because really the only variance we're asking for, I think, is to the Nantucket setbacks, technically. You know, so other than that, it would be upgrading what's already there, which would just come under the standard upgrade review process. Again, if you're going to make a motion, then, you know, I think you just may want to think about this stuff that we talked about, you know what I mean? The testing results, additional testing, that sort of thing.
Selfishly, I would like to see it in the ground just to see how it will work, so that see if it can be better for other properties on the island.
so if there were, what would you like to see us being, you know, monitored to really kind of, you know, are there additional conditions so we could say we're getting the information we need to say, okay, this is another alternative for people on the island?
There's provisional has some strict conditions already. I like John's recommendation of limiting the parts per million. 6 might be a little low, but you know, the 10, you know,
I mean,
John has talked
6.5. I mean, they're coming in at 5.9.
We've talked about 10. And I think 10 is still, it's literally half of your normal IA. So it's still a 100, 50%.
Another 50%.
And that's drinking water quality standards anyway. Exactly. And we did use 10 in the calculation. So if you made it 10, it would jive with the calculation.
I'd like to say too, we have the provisional, but at Shubal Pond, we have 15 of these units put in a cluster individually, and their EPA is doing the monitoring of that. And that's been going on for 2 years now. And they're also doing groundwater monitoring at the other, and they're going in every month we're coming up on 2 years now. Every month they go in and they do influent and effluent samples on 13 units. Buzzards Bay is doing the same thing in West Falmouth. Buzzards Bay Coalition in West Falmouth on 4 systems that's monthly beyond that. So we have a lot of data that I can share with you. And like I said,
Well, so if we said 10 parts and monthly testing, because the thing is, a property is occupied, one house is occupied year round, the other is, so summer is a change. Plus, there's just a lot of crap going on around there. So, I mean, would they be amenable to 10 parts and monthly testing at least for a year or something like that, so we can really get,
Yeah, that's, they already have that protocol going in those 2 locations, as he mentioned. Little.
Are you gonna make a motion?
Okay, so if is that something that works for the board? And I mean, in terms of like trying, well, again, like it's trying some, well, not the board, for the Board of Health. To see to try to find other alternatives for IA systems. I mean, that has been a discussion we have had.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve under the condition, it'll be subject to monthly testing. And that it has to stay below 10 parts per million throughout all the testing period. And the testing period, do we specify the testing period?
Yeah, you need to have time.
So 2025 is when, 18 months, because 2025 is when the provisional certification is due.
18 months from the time of the certificate of compliance being issued for the installation.
Perfect.
Okay,
That
yeah, I
sounds
mean,
great.
you got the language. So
That's your motion?
motion is provide 10 parts per million monthly testing for 18 months from the
Issuance of the certificate of compliance for the installation of the system.
Okay.
And
That's-
if it is not working,
If it doesn't meet those things, or if the system loses provisional status, the owners are gonna have to replace it.
do I hear a second?
Second.
And roll call, Carrie,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
and I say yes.
Thank you very much. I don't think I've ever missed a 6:15 vote for a Board of Health meeting before.
We're getting good at stuff like that now.
thank you all. And
Thanks, yeah,
look
thanks a
forward
lot.
to working
Thank
with
you.
you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Let's, our next meeting is what, January?
Let me get that number.
We're back on third, whatever it is.
Thursday, so we confirm that, January 18th.
January 18th, okay.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have motion to adjourn. So a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, guys. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Holidays, everybody. Enjoy it.